There was once this tribe in Africa, and this tribe had a very sacred person among them. This sacred person was charged with remembering all the stories that had been passed down from ancestors, all the stories about the different beings, the different spirits, the different biographies of all the ancestors that had existed in the tribe. It said that they had to remember thousands of stories of individuals, of beings, of creation, of truth, of pain, of love. All of these stories had to be remembered by this one person. And this person had an acolyte that was taught every single story, day after day. All that they did was try to memorize the stories that were passed from the teacher to the student. And in ideal circumstances, this student would memorize all the stories told, all the things related to humanity through the eyes of this tribe. And in the best circumstances, all the stories were remembered. In the worst, many were lost. But in either case, when the elderly or shaman in charge of the stories died, it was a time of lamenting because a library was lost. A vast library with many tomes was lost when this person died. So it wasn't just the person, it was what that person remembered that was so significant that they were the tribe's library. And when they died, a library was burnt to the ground. Even if everything had been copied, a library was lost. And then the state of the tribe was still in peril because then you have one library left. And that library would try to duplicate as many of the stories as possible by building a new library in another person. So, a long time ago, before I knew this story, let me backtrack a bit. This is something that I've told a lot of people. About a decade ago, maybe even over a decade, I'm 28 now, about when I was 15, 16, and 17, probably just 15 and 16. Those years are hard to remember everything from those years because they were so chaotic mentally. But 15, 16, I was convinced that I would end up killing myself. But I wanted to leave an imprint of my consciousness. I wanted to show what my consciousness was so that it wouldn't be lost when I died. I wanted to understand things through my consciousness that my particular consciousness could only think. Other people's consciousnesses would think other things. Every individual has a different consciousness that views things differently, that understands things differently. I wanted to save that imprint, even if I ended up killing myself. And so I began to write. I began to write page after page after page, philosophy, my ideas. I'd research, I'd learn more so I could get my view on other things. And I realized after year, I started to not want to kill myself because I realized there's so much more to learn. There's so much more my consciousness can do and leave for the world. Now, when I realized that every single person is like a library, I think that is the time when I realized I have to save as many libraries as possible so that those tomes that exist in people are not lost. So that not a single shred of consciousness is wasted unless circumstances come that I don't have any control over. But I can do my best to influence people in a way that they're less violent, less harmful to one another. And my identity became of preserving all the libraries out there with tomes that are not copied, with tomes that only exist in every single library. Consciousness is vast. All of the libraries of humanity, every single person being a library, matter for all those that come after us. And it matters for our experience of the moment as we read each other's libraries, as we go to each other's libraries, exchange tomes. It matters for now, preserving the past, and what we pass down. Once I realized that, I think I became a true humanitarian who wanted to preserve every single library we had, every single person we had. It isn't easy for every single one of us to encourage that kind of thing because we feel very limited as far as our skills. But we can try. We can try to preserve those libraries, make sure they have a good foundation. New libraries being built, new people becoming people, having a strong foundation, having a way to exist for as long as possible, gaining access to other libraries so that their own grows. I suppose my support for the building of new consciousnesses, new libraries, supporting them and saving the old would make me a bit like a librarian. Maybe that's all I am spiritually, is a librarian. Trying different things, understanding different things, doing different forms of magic, giving my perspective and how I do things. I'm okay with being a librarian, I think. It might be one of the most noble things you can do. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. Preserve your libraries. Preserve the libraries around the world. Thank you.